Hello. It's my first time. No, it's not. Man, it's good. It's good to be with you in the house of Jesus this morning. I'm so glad to see you guys. Man, there's so many things you could be doing with your time on a Sunday morning. We're so thankful you're here with us at the Bridge. It's our desire, it's our prayer, especially if you're a guest with us. Welcome. We love you. We trust that God brought you here for a reason this morning. We want to help you get plugged in, and we're going to look at the Bible here. We've been in this series called "The Struggle is Real," right? That is a phrase with which we have become culturally accustomed, especially because of social media, which probably all, if not almost all of us in this room engage on some level. This idea that the struggle is real. So we've been looking at like bottom shelf life issues. We've been talking about anxiety and depression. What does the Bible say about that? We've been talking about porn. What does the Bible say about that? Money, what does the Bible say about that? Today, social media, what does the Bible say about that, if anything? And have you ever been on the road driving and you look over it? I'm not talking about like stopped at a stoplight. I'm talking about driving your vehicle forward, using the engine. And you look over to your right or to your left, and someone is also driving their vehicle forward, using its engine. And they're like this. They're literally driving their car with their head down, scrolling social media on their phone while their vehicle is moving. What do you do? What do you do? I mean, do you scowl at them, or you honk, or you give them the California welcome, or like, I hope you don't do that. Jesus is watching, you know. I honk my horn, like, I'm not making this up. I honk my horn to get their attention, and, you know, they're startled because they have forgotten what they're doing. They've forgotten that they're driving and going somewhere and having a little moment. They're startled, and they look over, and I look at them with a very intense face, and I go, I'm not making that up. Don't let it happen to you. Don't meet Pastor Jeff on the road. Jesus has asked me to be his personal ambassador in this way. I may have a little bit of road rage. Someone says yes. What do we mean by social media? It's pretty simple, really. It's those digital spaces like Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and Snapchat and Periscope and these different kinds. I think Periscope doesn't exist, but anyway, these different places where we post content, right? Videos, pictures, text and stuff like that, and then we talk about them. It's really that simple. It's a space to connect digitally instead of in person and to share our lives in various ways. Here's why we're talking about this, friends. Social media is a part of all of our lives, whether we use it or not. The vast majority of us do. If you're one of the folks who doesn't use social media and you're here this morning, don't check out. Lean in. Listen in, because it is a huge, huge and influential part of our lives and culture, and it is not going anywhere. It's not a fad. It's not a craze. It has and is continuing to rewire how the United States and the Western world communicates. It's not going anywhere. So the question we ask as followers of Jesus is, how do we engage it well? How do we not get stuck in some of its pitfalls and traps, and how do we use it to point people to Jesus? And so we're going to talk about this morning, but first, let me share with you just how amazingly pervasive and widespread this is. There are 3.2 active daily users of social media in the world. That's almost half of the world's population engaging in social media daily. Isn't that incredible? Facebook, here in the United States, let's ramp it back a little closer to home. 68% of adults have and use Facebook daily. So you slide over to young adults who prefer Instagram. 72% of teens and young adults in the United States, 72% of them are engaging daily on Instagram, liking things, posting things, interacting in various ways. Check out how this splits out by generation, right? So you got the baby boomers who are now roughly middle-aged or a little past, and less than half of them really seem to care about social media and are involved in it. And then you got Gen Xers who are my age and a little bit older. And we sort of, about 3/4 of us are like, yeah, we've made the digital leap. We're analog natives, but we like these toys. This is fun. And then you've got 90% of millennials who are choosing to make this a primary, if not the primary way that they communicate with one another. That's significant for us, friends. You might be a millennial, you might parent one, you might grandparent one, you might know, this is significant. And the number, they're not done studying it because these folks are still so young, but Gen Z, who comes after millennials, the number's even higher. Okay, this is part of our world, so how do we engage it well? Because for many, 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 many hundreds of thousands, millions of people, social media ends up becoming a struggle in some way. The tool becomes a toy that derails us, essentially. So what does all this mean, friends? It means that we've got a cultural addiction going on. I guess on the lighter end of the scale, it's a fascination. A fascination, and on the heavier end of the scale, it's an addiction. And we need to be able to talk about this well. So I want to help us crack open the Bible this morning because there are 5 ways that we can get trapped in social media. Now, hear me, friends. Social media is like this. Some of us are like, why are we even talking about this? And others of us get to the end of a day and we're so wiped out from all of our connections and posts and video and connecting with people and keeping up the facade and whatever we're doing that we're like, oh, the struggle is real. I just want everybody to like me, and it's so hard to maintain that image. There's 5 different ways that social media can trap us. Now, social media is not evil. It's not bad. There's nothing wrong with it. In fact, it's amoral. It's just a piece of software. It's an app on our phones. It doesn't tell us what to do. It doesn't lead us into sin. It doesn't make us choose things. It doesn't destroy our souls. We're responsible for all of that and the ways that we use it and respond to it. So don't misunderstand that this church doesn't like social media. Are you kidding me? We have active social media feeds that we use as a church. I've got several accounts myself. It's all about how we engage. So here's the first trap. Wasting our time. Wasting our time. So, the average person in the United States spends 2.2 hours per day scrolling social media feeds. 2.2 hours per day. So let's do a little math here. I used my phone to help me with this. 803 hours per year. Wow. The average American spends 803 hours per year scrolling social media, which translates, are you ready? 33 and a half days. There's only 12 months in a year, and we spend over one of those months scrolling social media. Wow. Now, that's not all bad, right? But it's kind of hard not to think about how much time we're wasting. We only get 12 months in a year, and we use one of them here. Yikes. So what does the Bible say? Some of us probably have already been on social media in this church service this morning. Put the phone down. But I'm using the Bible app. Great. Close the Facebook app that's running in the background. I may be Gen X, but I know how these things work. 1 Corinthians 7, friends, listen to what this is saying. Brothers and sisters, the time is short. From now on, those who have wives should live as if they do not, those who mourn as if they did not, those who are happy as if they were not, those who buy something as if it was not theirs to keep. And listen to this, those who use the things of the world as if not engrossed in them. For the world in its present form is passing away. So is that telling us not to mourn and not to be happy? Of course not. It's saying keep your priorities in check and be mindful of how you use your time because you don't know how much you get. James chapter 4 says you don't even know what's going to happen tomorrow. What is your life? You're like a mist that appears for a little while and then vanishes. Bottom line, time is precious. Precious, precious, and we tend to depend upon it. We tend to assume upon it that there will be more time, that it's especially the younger you are, the more an exhaustible resource we perceive it to be, but it's not, friends. And so there's a danger, there's a trap in wasting time on social media. Do we give it up? No, but we keep track of why we're there, what we're doing, and how much time we're spending there, and for what reasons we're choosing to spend that time, because we can waste our time. Friends, I'm not exempt. Like, please don't understand Pastor Jeff to stand up here and like preach at you like we're preaching with this morning. Check out this note my son wrote my wife and I because of this. So we... You know, this little sucker, you know where he put this? He taped it to the mirror above our bed. So we're going to bed one night, and apparently we had spent too much time thising and not enough time thising with our children. And we go in there, we turn the light, get changed, lay down. We're like, what is that? Put the iPhone down. And so the snarky little kid, I have no idea where he gets it. And my poor wife, so many loving men in her house. The next morning, he's like, acting all. Did you see it? Wasting time. Here's the deal. What do we do with this week? I want to help this be practical for us in the next 7 days. We've always got these. They are ever present with us, and like we're sitting waiting to pick up our kids, we're scrolling, you know what I mean? We're waiting at the doctor, we're scrolling. We're waiting in line at the checkout at the grocery store, we're scrolling. We're driving our cars. Don't be scrolling. We're sitting on the toilet because nature has called, and we're scrolling. You know it's true, friends. You're like, ooh, that time where we used to read things that, improve our lives, we're scrolling. So I want to suggest that I'm not telling you to put your phone down even. I'm not even going to be that bold. Switch what you're doing on your phone. Download the YouVersion Bible app. It's available in every app store. It's available everywhere on every computer in every format and every translation entirely for free. The time you'd normally scroll, read the Bible instead. So just for the next 7 days, that 5 minutes while you're waiting scrolling, no, read some word instead. For the next 7 days, while you're sitting there doing your business, because everybody does business, instead of scrolling, read the Bible instead and see what happens in the next 7 days when we decrease our usage of time here and we increase our usage of time here, to use the old school paper one. Here's another trap. First one, wasting our time. Second one, comparing our lives. Whew. Comparing our lives, man, we see things we want that we don't have, don't we? All the time on social media. We're like, man, what is going on with me that I don't have that? Or I'm not with them, or I'm not a part of this, or I don't go to this place and do this thing, or go on these vacations, or attend that church, or that group, or read my Bible, or whatever it is. We compare, and it always comes back here. Like, what is wrong? I do the same thing. So I'm in my mid-30s, and I had a group of really, really close Jesus-following friends. We attended and graduated from Fresno State together. We went through the SMIT camp program together. Most all of us are either serving in the church or actually working in the church. And I look at them, and most of them have newer and bigger houses than me. And I look at them, and most of them have better cars than me. And I look at them, and they definitely are all taking way more vacations than me. And this is not to say that the Bridge Church doesn't take care of me. The Bridge Church takes great care of me. But I'm prone to comparison. And I think you probably are too. It's an issue of contentment. We compare because we're not content. We could have everything we need and much, much more into the realm of what we want, and we're still not content. What's up with that? Listen to what the Apostle Paul says. He says, here's a brother who was beaten to the point of death multiple times. People literally making fun of him all the time, spitting in his face. The brother was shipwrecked out on the ocean multiple times, imprisoned. And this is what he says: I've learned to be content whatever the circumstances. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I've learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do all this through him who gives me strength. Now, here's an interesting thing about Jesus and the strength he provides and our contentment. That word, this, I can do all this. That's actually, the word this is not there in the original writing. What the original writing of this, when God inspired a human being to pen it so many thousand years ago, what it literally says is, I can do all through him who gives me strength. So the bottom line is, we have exactly what we need for today. God is the one who has granted us this day. God is the one who has decided what we would have in this day, where we were born, at what place and time in history, whom we're married, all of these things. God has allowed this to be, and if he wanted us to experience something different, he would cause it to be so. Why aren't we content? Friends, if you're not content, listen to this. It doesn't mean that you don't have enough of what you want. It means you don't have enough of Jesus. That's the only reason we're not content. It's not because we're lacking what we want. It's because we're lacking enough of Jesus. We can do all things through him who gives us strength. And so if we want to overcome the trap of comparing our lives, scrolling, why not me? Why not me? Why don't I? Why can't I? When will I? How should I? Where? If we want to get past that, friends, we need to step back from that and step toward Jesus. Because it's not that we don't have enough of what we want, it's that we don't have enough of Jesus. So this week, put the phone or tablet down and walk away the moment you begin comparing. Literally, the moment your heart goes to that familiar place where that little twinge of, why not me? What? Put it down. Literally, put it down and walk away. And as you're doing, talk to Jesus. Walk toward Jesus in the moment and say, you know what? It doesn't feel this way, but I know that I have everything I need in you. You gave me this day. You gave me these clothes. You gave me these feet upon which I am walking. You've given, just roll with it. Roll into Jesus and away from the comparison, because the matter of fact is, Jesus will give us as much of himself as we are allowing him to give. So let's get more of him. Comparing our lives. Trap number 3, curating our image. Now the word curating our image. Curating is not a word we use much anymore, but I love it because it says something so specific and beautiful. Curating is carefully selecting only those things that advance what we want. We don't use the word, but we sure do a lot of curating, don't we? Carefully selecting, surveying the vast array of options, and carefully selecting to engage and use only those options that advance what we want for ourselves. We do this with our image on social media, and so does everybody else. And we often don't even realize it, but stop and pause and think, when was the last time you saw on social media a picture that wasn't polished in some format? You know, people post pictures of their family, and it's like everybody just constantly lives in front of a professional photographer. When was the last time you saw a picture of someone's nasty, dirty, real-life house? You know, when was the last time someone posted something without tying a nice little spiritual bow at the end of it? We'll have the struggle is real moment, and we'll share this epic thing going on, that it is not resolved in our lives, and that God is still working, even though we're trying to see that and we're having trouble trusting. It's so much easier to curate our image and to tie it up with a little spiritual bow and quote a verse, rather than just say, here's where I am, and I don't like it, and I know God's good because he's proven it in the past, but I don't get it right now. Would you pray for me? Imagine what kind of connection might come out of something like that, rather than, oh, look at all this stuff that's happened, and oh, by the way, this, and this, and this, and we curate our image. We curate our text, we curate our videos, we curate our pictures, and everybody does it too. Why do we do this? We curate our image when our identity is misplaced. This is an identity issue. What will people think of me? What will my reputation be like? Will people know that I don't have what they already have? Will people know that I'm the same age as them, but I don't have that house, I don't have that car, I don't go to that church, I don't have that group of friends, my kids are crazy, and the list goes on, right? We curate. We only want people to see about us what makes us comfortable with them seeing us. Here's what the Bible says about our identity, friends. When the time set by God in advance had fully come, God sent his son Jesus, born of a woman, born under the law, to redeem those under the law. Listen to this, friends. That we might receive adoption as sons and daughters. And because you are his sons and daughters, God sent the Spirit of his Son, Jesus, into your hearts. Not just your lives, not just around you, not just in your church, not just in your community, into your heart. The very center of you, the fiber of your being that's most you. Jesus is there. The Spirit who calls out, Father. So, because of this, you're no longer a slave, but you are God's child. And since you are God's child, he has made you an heir in his family. He has set you alongside Jesus so that all the rights and privileges and meaning and purpose and value and spiritual riches being part of God's family that has been given to Jesus has now been given to you. What are we doing? Curating our lives. Jesus gives us every bit of meaning, every bit of purpose, every ounce of value that we need. We don't need to show people the best self. Jesus sees the best self, and that is all we should need to be concerned with. So this week, I want to suggest that you flip. If you've been curating, like we all do, friends, this week, let's flip that 180 degrees on its head, and let's only post real content. If you're going to post a picture, post your nasty living room. If you're going to post your family, post it in chaos when there's blood. If you're going to post about what's going on in your life, don't pretend it's all buttoned up when it isn't. See what might happen this week when you post real content and what kind of real connections might come out of this digital space that have never come out before. If you extend yourself in a real way, other people might respond in a real way. What might happen? We curate ourselves. Here's another trap. We escape our reality. Oh, man. Facebook and Instagram and the others, they are so great for escaping reality. Not only are people crazy up in those spaces, life is hard, right? Life is hard. We know from personal experience difficulty, sorrow, and heartache, suffering, apathy. We all know from personal experience what it's like to know that we're supposed to care about something, but we cannot muster up a care for it. Life is difficult. I know you got these situations in your life, friends, and it's much easier to do this, and then, than dealing with them head on from the perspective of Jesus. It's much easier. And then when we're escaping reality, whether we would call it that or not, when we're doing that, isn't there something that breathes inside of you, a sigh of relief when you see someone else's pain because it takes the mind off of yours? Like, this is real level brokenness we're dealing with here. We're like, geez. And it gives you a respite from your own pain. We escape our reality. I do it too. My oldest son is 6, maybe 8 months deep now into constant stomach pain. Doctors have no idea what's going on. We've been through tests and imaging, everything. We've messed with his diet and his sleep and his lifestyle, and he had to take over a month off of school because he's constantly in pain, and it ramps up in the nighttime so that when it gets to be nighttime, it gets so bad that he curls up in a ball and he cries himself to sleep every night. Last night, the night before, life's hard, man. It's much easier for me as his father than to lean in with my wife when he's finally asleep and beg for God's mercy. It's much easier to do this or to sit and watch the TV, to escape, than it is to lean in. We just discovered that our youngest, about 2 months ago, has a developmental delay. So he's 14 months old, but functionally, he's 7 months old, right? So we got 2 and 3 appointments of various kinds going on each week to try and help him catch up. But this is one of those deals where there's no end date. And I'm upset by that. Why not someone else, God? Why more difficulty when you've allowed so much difficulty into my family's life in the last couple of years? It's much easier just to be like, you know what, the day's done. I'm going to sit here and I'm going to check out rather than to lean in as a husband, as a father, as a parent, as a pastor, and say, God, have mercy on my family and help us to see how you are enough in this challenging season. It's much easier to escape reality, and we all do it. Those stories I just shared, you have them. You could rattle off them in your own lives, many of them even more painful than the ones I'm sharing from my own life right now. Friends, escape is a choice many of us make, but it's not the right choice. Escape only breeds more heartache. It's not the best choice. Listen to what James says. Consider it pure joy, brothers and sisters, whenever you face trials of many kinds, because you know that the testing of your faith produces perseverance. I don't like that. I don't. Why can't it be easy? Let perseverance finish its work so that you may be mature and complete, not lacking anything. If you spend any time in church, any time reading the New Testament, you're probably familiar with that. Preachers love to preach on this passage, get all fired up about perseverance and how difficulty produces character and growth requires discomfort and all of these things. But what we fail to realize is that the only way to be complete, hear me, friends. We are people who are made in God's image, redeemed by his Son, Jesus, who is now living inside of us, his Spirit continuing to restore us. And yet, all of that, this text says, the only way to be mature and complete, the only way for God's image within us to be fully realized, the only way to live in the manner that God designs us to live is through trials, through suffering. There is no way to maturity, no way to complete living that escapes difficulty. But it's so much easier to escape difficulty. The question is, on what will we fix our eyes? Listen to this. This is talking about Jesus. It says in Hebrews, let us throw off everything that hinders us, the sin that so easily entangles. Sometimes that could be social media, among many other things. And here it is. Let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. Friends, I wish my oldest wasn't hurting all the time. And I wish my youngest wasn't behind. And you wish, those are our wishes. And yet that is the race marked out for us. And the question is, will we run it or will we run away from it? Will we take it headlong because we can do all through him who gives us strength, or will we escape it and bury ourselves in the fantasy worlds that we create in social media? That's the question. It goes on to say, let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us, for you, for me, fixing our eyes on Jesus. Oh man, it is so much easier to fix our eyes than on something that lets us off the hook. I don't have to think about the pain. I don't have to think about the problem. I can insert my opinion where it doesn't belong. It's so much easier. Fix our eyes on Jesus. For the joy set before him, this was his race, the race that God marked out for his Son, his flesh and blood, Jesus. The cross. He endured the cross. He scorned the shame that it could provide, and then sat down at the right hand of God on his throne. Consider him, the text says, when we want to escape, when you want to constantly scroll, when you want to revel in other people's problems so that you can forget your own, when you want to create a fantasy world because yours is difficult, consider him who endured opposition from sinners so that you will not grow weary and lose heart in your wrestle against sin, in your wrestle in this life, in your difficulty you have not yet resisted to the point of shedding blood. Endure hardship as discipline, because every loving father disciplines his child. What then will we say? Will we escape, or will we say, I can do all through him who gives me strength? And this is a season of discipline, and it is the only way that I will know perseverance, and perseverance is the only way I will become complete. There's a lot at stake when it comes to social media because it can derail that in our lives. Here's the final trap, friends. Fear of missing out. Many of us have probably heard the term FOMO. That is an acronym for fear of missing out. What will they think of me if I'm not there? What will they say about me if I'm not part of the conversation? What will folks assume if I don't post? If I won't be in the loop. I'll be left out. See, here's the thing. This goes right back to identity. When we fear missing out, our identity is misplaced. The only reason we would fear missing out is because the things we fear missing out on are the very things which we are trying to squeeze for identity. Connection. We're trying to find meaning and value and affirmation that comes from the like button, favorable comments or comparisons. All these things make us feel good, and we mistake them for our identity, and so we search after them, we run after them, we get as many of them as we can find, and people will give us because they give us meaning and value, and all the while we are pouring in to a false reality. The only place to find meaning and value and purpose is Jesus. Many, many, many of us know this. We've spent unbelievable amount of time and money and relationships and decisions chasing after things only to discover that it was Jesus all along. Friends, we fear missing out when our identity is misplaced. If we are attempting to squeeze social media for identity, for the nourishing juice of identity, we're going to find the well is dry. It's only and ever Jesus. Remember what we said and we read in Galatians 4, God sent his son Jesus, born of a woman, born under the law, to redeem those under the law so that we might receive adoption as sons and daughters. God sent the Spirit of Jesus into our hearts so that we might call out, Abba, Father. You are no longer a slave but God's child, and since you are a child in God's family, God has placed you alongside Jesus with all of the spiritual riches available to you that are available to Jesus as part of God's family. We should be fearing missing out on Jesus. We're chosen by God. It doesn't matter what this says. We're filled with God's own Spirit. This can't fill us with anything that won't ultimately dissolve, and often very quickly. We're freed. We're freed from a life where we search for identity in all the wrong places. We're freed from sin. We're freed from all kinds of addictions. We're free. We're not slaves any longer because Jesus has set us free, and yet we find ourselves so often chained straight up to this. Friend, if you FOMO constantly, if you are constantly fearing what will happen when you are not there, you're not engaging, you're not posting, you're not, what are people doing and thinking and saying? It's time to take a break. It's time to take a break. It's time to delete that app for a season. But here's the thing about how we're wired up as humans. If we move away from something unhealthy, if we don't fill that spot with something healthy, we'll just find another unhealthy thing. So it's not just that, like, if you're constantly finding identity here and you know you need to find it in Jesus, getting rid of the apps is not enough. You have to replace that with Jesus, with time spent with him, time walking with him, time trusting him, time reading his word. Otherwise, you will replace it with Netflix. Or you'll replace it with an unhealthy relationship or a bottle or something you smoke or workaholism or it's an identity issue. The only thing we have to fear is our relationship with God, and Jesus has taken care of that for us. So how then do we do this? How then do we live into this? Man, friends, there are so many resources available. All kinds of really, of course, we're talking about the Bible, right? There are other great books. There are podcasts. There are videos and articles and you name it. So I took some time this week to compile a list of solid, reputable, credible, Jesus-focused resources. Starting tomorrow on our website, thebridgefresno.com, you'll see a button right there on our homepage that says resources. If you click that, it'll take you to a list of the resources we've compiled here as a church that we would recommend to you for further reading. How can I grow in this way in my marriage or as a parent? I'm a parent of millennials, right? I'm a grandparent of millennials, or you know what? I am a Gen Xer and I love my phone more than Jesus. At least that's what my time says. Or what? The reasons are all over the map. We want to resource you. But here's what I want to, so head over to the website tomorrow, but here's what I want to leave you with this morning. 4 quick biblical reminders. Because the reality is, A lot of us are going to walk right out the door of church this morning, and we're going to begin engaging social media if we haven't already been in the last 20 minutes. Once again, how do we do that well? How do we not get trapped as followers of Jesus? Here's the first thing, friends. Treat others as you want to be treated. We often think of that in terms of in-person relationships, interpersonal interactions, or in the workplace, or in the church, or whatever it is. There's no limit. There's no boundaries on that statement. Jesus says straight up, in everything, do to others what you would have them do to you, for this sums up the law and the prophets. That's the New Testament way of saying everything that God has thus far revealed and written and done. All of it, all that you know about God and his involvement in the lives of the world and people can be summed up in this statement. Treat others as you want to be treated, and it goes on to say in Galatians, love your neighbor as yourself. All of it is summed up in that. That's got to be a primary lens, a filter for us as we engage on social media, because let me tell you, friends, we are prone to doing things and saying things and writing things and posting things there digitally that we would never, ever do in person. And we all fall victim to it. And being in the church, being a follower of Jesus, we're not exempt. I see weekly folks who come to church and are worshiping Jesus and reaffirming their commitment to Jesus, and then doing things on social media that smear the reputation of Jesus. And so we got to treat people as we want to be treated, and we got to give grace to those who hear. Ephesians 4:29 says, don't let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for building others up according to their needs, so that it may benefit those who listen. My favorite translation says that it may give grace to those who hear. James says this, brothers and sisters, everyone should take note of this. Be quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to become angry, because human anger doesn't produce the righteousness that God desires. The tongue is a small part of the body, but it makes great boasts. And when you hear tongue, think thumbs. Think thumbs. Control your thumbs. The thumbs are a small part of the body, but they make great boasts. Consider what great forest is set on fire by a small spark. Your thumbs are also a fire. A world of evil among the parts of the body, corrupting the whole body, setting the course of one's entire life on fire, and is itself set on fire by hell. Wow. With our thumbs, our voices, we praise our God and Father, and with them we curse human beings who have been made in God's image. Out of the same mouth, with the same thumbs, come praising and cursing. Brothers and sisters, this should not be. Give grace to those who hear. So this week, before you post and before you reply to any comment, pause. Pause and ask yourself the question, will it give grace? Will it give grace? Will it benefit those who hear according to their needs? Not my opinion, not my perception, not my thought or desire. Will it give grace according to their needs? And if the answer is no, walk away. There's no reason to engage, no need to post it, because you can be pretty certain that it's not from Jesus, it's from you. And that's the dangerous part, right? Is when we start posting things in our own thoughts and power and strength. Here's one more. Check your heart. When you engage on social media, check your heart. We could say check your motives. Check them early, friends. Check them often. The heart of the righteous weighs its answers, the Proverbs say, but the mouth of the wicked, the thumbs of the wicked, gush evil. Out of the overflow, the abundance of the heart, the mouth speaks. Jesus teaches us in the Gospel of Luke. Check your heart. If there's gunk in your heart, gunk will come out in your interactions. And so this week, I would encourage us to pause to ask why before we engage on social media. Why am I doing this? Why do I feel the need to speak up? Why do I feel the need to place myself in this conversation? Why do I feel the need to share this, to post this, to send this video? Why? And if there's no obvious answer, don't post. If it has to do with you, don't post. If it has to do with them, don't post. If it has to do with Jesus, maybe post. I'm not saying do this forever. I'm saying try it for a week and see what might happen. Finally, friends, protect Jesus' reputation. Protect Jesus' reputation. We spend so much time curating our own reputation. Why don't we curate Jesus' reputation? 2 Corinthians says that we're actually Christ's ambassadors. God is literally making his appeal to unchurched folks who don't know Jesus through us. God could make his appeal any way he wants, and he decided that we would be the method by which he appeals to people who need to know Jesus. You are Christ's ambassador this morning, in your workplace, in your family, on your Facebook, and in your Instagram. God is making his appeal digitally through you. So this week I want to suggest that you look through your feeds, the things that you have already posted on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and others. Look through the stuff you've already posted and pull down, delete, without question, anything that discredits Jesus or could be a stumbling block. Just get rid of it. You don't need it. Jesus doesn't need it. Just pull it down. We got to protect the reputation of the one who staked his own life that we might be part of his family. Friends, social media, it's a huge influential part of our world, part of our lives. It's not going anywhere. It's not bad. It's not evil. But the question is, as followers of Jesus, whom Jesus has given meaning and value and purpose, a call that we might do something unique and specific and wonderful and fulfilling with our lives, how then do we not get trapped? And how do we live well digitally, just like we endeavor to live well interpersonally when we're face to face? Let's pray. God, thank you. Thank you for your word. Thank you for Jesus. Thank you for social media. You've literally given us access to the world to be able to speak about you. That's amazing. Help us to understand that. Help us to see through that lens this week. Help us to develop healthy habits. Give us the ability. May we pause this week to consider where we're currently trapped or where we're heading toward getting trapped, and help us to take active, intentional steps to be healthy, to live well, Jesus, and to protect your reputation. Thank you for making us your sons and daughters. Thank you for choosing us, for filling us, for calling us and giving us a name and a place and a purpose. Forgive us for attempting to find that outside of you. Forgive us for attempting to find that in social media sometimes. May we find it in you. May we understand that you alone have made possible a place for us, a name for us, an identity for us in the house of the Father. And may that be enough for us. It's in your name, Jesus, we